Hello and welcome to the laboratory of UMETA. Nice to have you here with us. I promise you it worth staying with us. And if you have any questions, ask directly on Slido. You got a direct link on your invitation mail, or go to slido.com and use #505315. #505315. So let's start with a hello to the General Manager, Frank Maser.
Yes, thank you very much. It's great to have you here. Welcome to our laboratory. And I'm very happy to invite everybody to take a look at our latest product, an innovative lubrication coupler that will give you a completely new approach to manual lubrication.
It's a SNAPSTAR, yes? It's a star. It's a new star you built.
Yes, it's the SNAPSTAR coupler, and it's unique in very many ways. We all know the traditional couplers that stick on the grease nipple and need to be removed by twisting them off, or the couplers that have a little side lever that you press to release it from the grease nipple. This one has a sleeve that runs across the jaws, and when you stick it on the grease nipple, which we'll show you in a little moment, the sleeve moves forward and fixes the jaws around the grease nipple, so it stays firmly in its position.
So have a look to the SNAPSTAR. We have two different SNAPSTARs.
Yes, actually we even have 4 different versions. However, the main difference is the SNAPSTAR comes either with or without a pressure release valve. Why do we need these two? The one without the valve, which I would call the standard version, is well suitable up to pressures of 400 bars, which is a little under 6,000 psi. It can be easily removed until that pressure. When you exceed pressures of 400 bars, or let's say 6,000 psi, you want to go for the one that has the release valve, because it allows you to release a pressure, and like that you can easily remove it manually from the grease nipple.
It's perfect. This valve, I never seen anywhere before. It must be very new. How much pressure does it hold?
Well, to be honest, I've never seen a grease coupler that has a release valve myself. I believe it's complete new. And both couplers are tested up to pressures of 1,000 bars, which is approximately 14,500 psi. Like I said before, the standard coupler is recommended up to 400 bars, approximately 6,000 psi, a little less than that, where simply because of the reason that you need a little extra power to release it from the grease nipple when it exceeds those pressures. In that case, like I said, we strongly recommend the version that has the release valve. Release the pressure and it comes off very easily.
We asked for questions, and we have the first question. Thank you for that. Does the SNAPSTAR work with all kinds of grease nipples?
Well, yes and no. The SNAPSTAR is built to work with hydraulic grease nipples, similar to this one, and every grease nipple that has a little round tip like this with an undercut underneath is called a hydraulic grease nipple. They are built according to many different international standards. We have the European standards here in our area, or the German standard. Then there are American standards like the SAE standard, the Japanese standard, JIS, and all those standard hydraulic grease nipples will work perfectly well with the SNAPSTAR. Of course, there are also other grease nipple types in the market, like the ones that have a little funnel type head, the flush type grease fittings, or the ones that have a little round surface on the top, the button head grease nipples. Obviously, you need the dedicated coupler to match with that kind of grease nipple tip. However, every grease nipple that is made to standards and comes with the hydraulic tip works perfectly well with the SNAPSTAR.
We always talk about grease. Does it work with oil is another question.
Well, we talked about the pressures a moment ago, and we have the little pressure test machine here that we always use to test all the maximum pressures of all the grease gun accessories that we sell, like the hoses and the tubes and also the couplers. This testing machine actually works with a very thin, very fluid testing oil.
Okay.
So if the coupler withstands the pressure with a very liquid testing oil, I believe it's almost self-explaining that it works great with grease as well, because the grease is not quite as fluent as the oil. And like I say, whenever it withstands the pressure against oil, it will also withstand the pressure using grease.
Okay, let's look at it. You said it works up to 1,000 bars.
Yes, that's right. When we look at the German standard for grease guns, for example, the standard operating pressure, or the test pressure better said, in that standard calls for 400 bars, which is close to 6,000, excuse me, like I said earlier. We always want to have like 2.5 times safety factor. That means 400 times 2.5 gives you 1,000. Okay, yeah. Therefore, we try to rate everything to around 1,000 bars to provide for the maximum safety. I mean, these pressures are huge. Not a lot of people have an imagination of what these pressures can do. When you look at your car tire, for example.
2 bars?
Yeah, that's about right, 2 to 3 bars. I mean, we're talking about 400, 800, 1,000. And everybody who's heard a car tire blow up before knows the sound is crazy. It almost blows off your ears. Yeah. And different example, when you fire a small caliber rifle, the gunpowder will explode in the barrel of the rifle, and the explosion creates a certain pressure that drives the bullet out to the front. And that pressure is about 1,000 bar, like the 15,000 or 14,500 PSI I mentioned before. And I'm sure we all agree nobody wants to stand in front of a gun while it's being fired. Not at all. Or hold your hand across the gun while it's being fired.
No, thank you.
And therefore, safety is so important. And that's the reason why we say never touch anything that's under such high pressure. Never touch the hose. Always release the pressure before you touch it after working. That, of course, requires that the grease coupler stays well on the grease fitting.
But what we do is not dangerous.
No,
I can
not
stay
at all.
Here.
Yes,
Okay.
you can stay here. I will show you how it works. So how does the SNAPSTAR attach to the grease nipple? Quite easily, you just make sure the sleeve is pulled back.
Okay.
Then you stick it onto the grease nipple. The sleeve moves forward and arrests the jaws around the grease nipple head. Of course, we want to make sure the valve is closed, otherwise this whole thing is a little bit useless. We have this safety tube that we put on top just to protect everybody, make sure no safety concerns at all. And now I'm gonna bring up the pressure. Let's see what happens here. So we come to 200, oh come on, stay here, you stay here. We have 400 bars now. Okay, a little over 400. That's the testing pressure that the standard requires for grease guns, like I said earlier. And if you step a little bit over in that direction, I'm going to remove the safety cover, and we see 400 bars, absolutely no leakage. There's not a single drop coming out. Everything is perfectly clean. So now we continue, and let's see what happens when we increase the pressure a little further. So we bring it up, and we have 800 and a little bit over 1,000. Like I said before, the pressure is released, and this ensures that none of the other components of the grease gun are overstressed. This is our little built-in safety margin.
This grease couple we don't have to use anymore.
No. This one is broken now. It has exceeded its limits. Yeah. And like everything, every piece of equipment that has exceeded its limits, we cannot use it anymore.
Perfect. And no pressure anymore.
No, not at all.
You know, I live at the countrysides, and I know if you have to lubricate, nobody likes it. Everybody, almost everybody is annoyed. Of course, afterwards you have to wash yourself and clean your clothes. That's not funny.
Yes, I know. Lubrication is a pain for everybody because the couplers always leave some grease out. They never want to stay on the grease nipple. And if you have used your coupler for a certain period of time, the jaws tend to bend open, the rubber seal inside tends to wear out. And what happens is that when you pump up the pressure of the grease gun, you see the grease coming out on the front of the coupler, or even worse than that, at some pressure the coupler will just fly off the grease nipple. And everybody hates that. Now that's the reason, I guess, why lubrication is not the most desired job on the farm.
How easy is it to take this off now?
Oh, that's very easy. We just take the coupler, relieve the sleeve, and here it is.
Oh, okay. You told me about the flying grease nipple. It's a little funny thing, but it works and can show us how easy it is.
Yeah. Well, if you take the SNAPSTAR like this and stick the grease nipple into the front, like I said before, just apply a little bit of pressure. The sleeve moves forward and arrests the jaws firmly over the grease nipple tip. And now when you want to remove it again, you just hold the coupler like this, or maybe, well, we can use this one here. It's maybe a little easier to hold because we have this little hose piece on the back, easier to show. So again, we take the grease nipple, the latch comes forward, grease nipple is firmly arrested, and now if we want to release it again, we just pull back the sleeve and whoop, there it goes.
And there it is, the flying grease nipple.
Couldn't be any easier like that.
So easy.
Yeah, it couldn't be any easier than that because so many people sometimes try to remove the grease nipple. It takes them forever. They hurt themselves. They make a mess. Everything gets greasy and dirty. This one is so simple.
We have another question we can talk about now. Does it also work with air operators or battery operators, grease guns?
Yeah, of course, because what does the SNAPSTAR do? It just connects the grease gun and the attachment to the grease nipple, and the grease pressure comes in this way into the lubricating point. The SNAPSTAR doesn't really care what created the pressure in the first place. It doesn't really matter whether the pressure comes from a manual-driven grease gun or from a battery-powered grease gun or from an air-operated grease gun. It's all the same. The grease pressure arrives at the back end of the SNAPSTAR, goes through, and that's it.
Okay. The normal grease couple, you have to change the seals. How often you have to change the seals here?
Well, never.
Never?
Never. That's the good thing because the SNAPSTAR has a steel seal inside. It's a special steel seal that sits well over the tip of the grease nipple, whereas the standard couplers, the common couplers we know from the past, mostly have rubber seals inside, and we talked about the high pressures before. And if you imagine that the high pressure pushes the rubber seal against the grease nipple and then some movement comes in, you move the coupler around for some reason because the machine is making some movements or whatever, that leads to the rubber seal scratching on top of the grease nipple under this high pressure, and that creates abrasion immediately, can destroy the rubber seal immediately, and at that point the coupler really becomes worthless because it'll leak all over the place. And that's also the reason why a lot of people consider the standard couplers to be consumables. They start leaking, they look at them, okay, I don't want this anymore, throw it out. This won't happen with the SNAPSTAR because it has this very good and very stable steel seal inside, yeah, that will not wear out.
So the SNAPSTAR saves money, time, and trouble.
Absolutely. It holds firmly on the grease nipple. It's clean because no grease can leak, and the rubber seal, which we don't have, there's no rubber seal inside that can wear out, and that's the reason why we're very happy to offer a 4 years warranty on the SNAPSTAR.
4 years?
Yes, 4 years. Perfect. And whenever anything goes wrong with the coupler, get in touch with us at info@umeta.com. Let us know what's going on. We'll take a look at the coupler. I'm sorry. We'll take a look at the coupler. Obviously, we cannot replace any couplers that have failed because of misuse. I mean, if you run over the coupler with your tractor or try to hit it with a hammer, or you operate it beyond the pressure limits, that's beyond our control, and that's your own thing. But if the SNAPSTAR fails under normal conditions, under the intended purpose it was built for, we'll be happy to replace it with a new product upon return of the old faulty product. And of course, the warranty will start from zero again. So if we send you a new SNAPSTAR as a replacement, it'll carry the same 4-year warranty again.
Okay, Mr. Mazes, thank you so far. Let's have a look at the SNAPSTAR in practice.
Yes, please.
Hallo, ich bin Robert Maser.
Hello, I'm Robert Maser. I work at UMETA in the 4th generation and would like to tell you a little bit about lubrication. Lubricating, as you know for yourself, is a dirty and annoying task. Normally, you create a big mess, half of the grease goes elsewhere, and you always miss the third hand to keep the coupler on the grease nipple. But now, we have a solution for all of that. The UMETA SNAPSTAR coupler. And today, I'd like to show you how it works. Simply plug it on. It stays firm and tight where it should and can be removed easily after lubricating. The SNAPSTAR coupler is available in 2 different versions, without and with pressure relief valve. The pressure relief valve allows you to remove the coupler easily at higher pressures of up to 1000 bar. The SNAPSTAR coupler doesn't have a rubber seal, but a very stable steel seal instead. That's why we can give you a 4 years function warranty. Even in the narrowest places, the SNAPSTAR coupler works without any problems.
You watched that video? Yes, perfect. So smart to use a SNAPSTAR. You can use it alone, and I know normally you use 2 persons, 3 persons to work.
Yes, I know. That's a very well-known problem people always have when they try to lubricate their equipment. The standard grease couplers, like we talked about before, they tend to wear out, they tend to become loose, they tend to become leaky, and when the grease coupler doesn't stay on the grease nipple anymore, doesn't want to stay there anymore under pressure, people easily tend to call somebody else over, hey, come over here, give me a hand, help me here, and get on that coupler and try to hold it onto the grease nipple. I believe that's the worst thing you can do, because you're really putting that person at a high danger. I mean, we talked about these high pressures before that compare to a gun being fired, and then you call somebody over and ask him to hold that potentially faulty piece of equipment that contains that high pressure. That's absolutely not acceptable according to my opinion. I believe that nobody should ever touch or hold anything in his hands that has these high pressures inside. That, however, requires a coupler that works well on the grease nipple, that stays where it's supposed to be, or it's supposed to stay. And the SNAPSTAR does that perfectly well, because we have this moving sleeve that goes across the steel jaws, and like I said before, it'll stay where it's supposed to be.
And think about bigger machines. You have to work 10 feet, 12 feet or higher with 2 people?
Yeah,
no?
It's not going to happen, because how is it going to look later? Somebody else climbing up the ladder before you, and you follow him and hold the grease gun below that person while you try to pump up that pressure? No, not possible. The only proper way, in my opinion, to do this job right is to have a reliable, safe and tight coupler, and that's a SNAPSTAR.
We all know the G coupler, the grease coupler. it needs very, very, very small places to work, but the SNAPSTAR needs less space to work with.
Well, we talked about the different couplers that are common in the market, and the classic coupler that we all know for many, many years now. They just fit onto the grease nipple, and to remove it you need some space to kind of turn or twist it off. So you really need this area clear to be able to move the coupler in order to remove it properly from the grease nipple. The other coupler, the G coupler like that we talked about, which is also a brilliant product, I can highly recommend that one. However, it has a lever on the side, and so you need some extra room for your thumb to press that lever in order to remove the coupler from the grease nipple. This one here, the SNAPSTAR, needs no extra space around at all, because you slide it on the grease nipple, the sleeve goes forward, and to release it you just pull it back. No area to move around, no area to move your fingers.
Okay, we have another question, so let's look to Slido. What is the number on the top of the coupler?
What is the number on the top of the coupler?
I don't understand this question.
No, that
so
beats
it's
me.
a nice question, but
Yes, the number
please.
on the top of the coupler. I don't see a number there. Hey, oh wait, okay. There is a number. I understand what they say. That's the production date in order to trace the batches.
Oh, okay. So, Bartek, I hope it's well answered. We come to the end of the presentation, but obviously it's most important to show the coupler. And what do you give for this? Is there a display? Is there what do you have to show the couplers?
Well, we work with a big number of professional partners. A lot of them are OEM users, companies that use our product to give it away with their own product that they manufacture, like tractor manufacturers or what have you. And, they would put this coupler into their toolbox. But we also have commercial resellers, and each of them is obviously set up in a different way. We have resellers that go with their vans, with their stacked vans, to their customers and present the product right there. Then we have other resellers who have their own shops. And for those who have their own shops, we offer two different kinds of displays. We have this one tabletop display that you see over there.
Yeah, that's fine.
And this, like the name says, of course, fits perfectly well on the tabletop. And, well, I made a little mess with my hands here. I need to clean that. Hang on. Otherwise, I messed this up. We played around with the oil. So, this one fits perfectly well on top of the table, shows the product in two different versions, or of course you can set it up in either way you like. And it comes with a little ball bearing here, has a grease nipple on the side like this, and it allows the customer to go ahead and test the good function of the SNAPSTAR right
really
away.
Nice, yeah.
So you can see how easy it goes on and off the grease nipple. The other alternative is the bigger display that sits on the floor. That's this one right here. It has 4 different hooks. You can show the 4 different versions, or the 2 versions that are common for your market twice. Same idea, the bearing on the top for the customer to try the product out. You can see that all these displays come with a little QR code that you can scan with your cell phone. Brings you right to the web page, shows you the video, so you get the information right away even while you stand in front of the product.
Okay.
And of course it also has this little thing on the top that explains again that we are offering the 4-year warranty on the SNAPSTAR.
And if the SNAPSTAR doesn't work, you can just call you or send an email.
Well, it's pretty straightforward. As soon as you run into a problem or run into an issue, you just contact us through our email address, info@umeta.com. Tell us what's going on. We'll be happy to take a look at the situation. And like I said, as long as the SNAPSTAR creates a problem under normal intended circumstances, we'll be very happy to replace it right away, and the new product will come with a new 4 years warranty.
So at the end, please resum the 4 main reasons to use the SNAPSTAR.
Well, the first reason, and I believe the most important reason, is personal safety. We don't want to hurt anybody. We want to make sure everybody stays healthy and happy, and therefore the safety aspect, the pressure aspects are the most important benefit of the SNAPSTAR, the perfectly safe working environment. On the other hand, it attaches and removes easily from the grease nipple, so easy operation. It's clean because the grease won't go all over the place. The grease will only go where you want it to go. And fourth, last but not least, we have the 4 years warranty. If anything goes wrong with the coupler, return it. We'll give you a new one under the normal circumstances like we discussed before. You escape this permanent circle of buying couplers, throwing away, buy, throw away, buy, throw away. Better for the environment and better for your bank account.
So, thank you for joining us for this little presentation of UMETA. And I can just say, last but not least, Frank Maser.
Yes, same from me. Thank you so much for taking the time to take a look at the SNAPSTAR. I hope we got you as excited as we are ourselves about the product. Let's move forward, bring it to the market, and let's be successful with it. Thank you so much. All the best. Bye-bye.